Hello everyone, and welcome to another update of the progress made on the screen space displacement mapping package for Unity. There has been a delay basically over the weekend, hit a few brick walls, but we got through them, and right now is basically a version 2, so there's just a couple more days of will have to make videos to replace the current tutorials, and but before I get into any of that, I'll just show you what the current state of it is. Many improvements, graphical and just ease of use. Features have changed. Right now it's loading the mega textures. This is a resolution of 1920 by 1080 and has FXAA. The frame rate is above 60 frames a second. But as of yesterday, well, that only happened yesterday because the day before it was at 30 frames a second, which is the brick wall I was talking about. Before I get into that, just have a quick look at some of these textures. They're RD textures from rdtextures.com. Thank you very much, Christoph, for your generosity. It's been amazing to work with these things. It's really, really amazing. Just looking at the quality. These are all at a 1024 by 1024 resolution, and I'll just show you some of there's 10 height levels in this demo so far. And as you see, the transitions from wet mud to dry mud to dirt to bits of bark and twigs. And as you see, they all have height details, so it's really amazing to have this much detail, and even in the leaves. It's really nice, really great blending. Yeah, the reason I was having such a difficult time was I was wondering why the frame rate was only at 30 frames a second once I'd added the height-based sampling of the mega textures, and it turned out it was because we're doing it in a for loop in the shader, and sampling that many areas of the mega texture within a loop for every pixel on the screen was a bit ridiculous, and was why it was so expensive to draw. So what I did is create a prepass where it renders the terrain to a well, not really the terrain, but it does a prepass before the SSDM camera, and what that does is captures the different height layers without any textures, just colors, or not really colors, but just indexes of the blending and everything. And then I project that image in the actual mesh drawing shader, and that way it just has to sample the the texture, the tile index to use from the mega texture, and how it blends from the actual image. So it was a much more efficient method and got it up to quadrupled the frame rate actually. But right now we have VSync on. So yeah, that was a big boost. Yeah, but there's been a lot of changes in the code. Not that anyone has to really worry about it. The only thing is that if using the procedural terrain, you will have to wait at startup of the level for the mega textures to load before allowing the player to be created, because it'll go first thing to be loaded will be the mega textures, and then it'll allow there's a function that lets you know when the mega textures have been created, and you would just set your object to active once that's finished. So the reason why is mega textures have to be created in the update loop. So because for some reason, if I did it in the awake method or anything like that, it seems to, if there's any interference or loss of focus of Unity, it will not load the mega textures, or it'll stop. And so the only way to get past that was to actually get into the update loop and load it there. So yeah, these are just absolutely incredible. There was one thing I was going to show. So if we can get to some rocks, you can also control now each parameter of the textures at each height. It's not happening here, so oh well. But yeah, it's just really nice. Just the probably up that a bit. Oh, so you're not meant to. Okay. Yeah, shadows look nice. Everything looks really, really great. I'm really happy with this. I actually wasn't expecting the train to turn out so beautiful, but the textures really have add something really special. What I'm going to do probably also before this is released in the next couple of days is to create some instancing, because it is a procedural terrain that goes on forever. It's nice to have some the ability to bake some positions, random positions at each height level all across the terrain. So maybe you'd have to set in how big your terrain will be, and then it will create a whole bunch of random samples at each height planes, at each height level, and save those positions, and then you can use an instancing script to sample. Say you want to put trees all over the areas with leaves, for example. You know, it would just be an easier way rather than having to manually go around and place everything. You could just use the height information. So I'll try and get that done because I want this demo to be really cool. And right now it's really cool to me, but you're going to need some objects to like as you see the tiling in the distance and such, be nice to make that not so noticeable. That flicker there, if you can see it on the mountain, that's actually happening because of the shadows. I've got to move the normal bias, I believe, out a bit more to take care of that, or increase the play with the shadows basically, and see if I can get that to not do that. Also, these white flickers are back. If you can, they just happen every now and then, but I'll have to get to the bottom of that. In the last version, just disabling multi-sampling AA was enough to get rid of that, but I will keep trying to hunt it down. It's not very noticeable and doesn't happen very often, but just knowing it does happen, yeah, I'll have to get to the bottom of that. So yeah, so I'm really happy with this, and I can just imagine, like a really nice medieval castle and some trees, and just really interesting. And right now, as I said, the heights have 16 options, 16 levels, but you can increase that if you want now. However, what I want to do is create that splat map probably in the following updates, where you can draw, like basically use any tile on the mega texture and just paint it on top of the height. So if I wanted a path here, I could just draw it, and so basically you could draw on anything using the splat map. But yeah, so anyway, I'm really happy with it. I hope you think it's really cool, and I just wanted to share where it's at. And anyone waiting for the update, yeah, it shouldn't be more than a couple of days to get all that sort of stuff done. there's actually not a lot to actually use in the project. You don't need to actually do a lot, but there are a lot more folders than there were. However, none of that really. I'll be making prefab, so you just basically drag and drop, and with the procedural train, there's just a bit more in depth I need to sort of talk about. But if just using the normal SSDM, then you really don't have much to worry about, because it's really just simply dragging the camera and placing it on your main camera as a prefab, and it just works. And really the only difference with including the procedural terrain is that there's an extra camera, so and that'll be exactly the same. And of course, it only works with mega textures, the procedural terrain, so that is a one caveat, I believe. So I think that's all I really wanted to say. I think the only thing left to address is this. If I move the camera really fast, you can see at the edges of the screen. That's because the main camera is being moved, and draw procedural is drawing the previous pass in the post render of the main camera. So when that's happening, it's only because there's no other place I can draw the procedural mesh, because you can't set which camera individually will be the one responsible for drawing the procedural mesh, which is a real problem. I don't know if there is a way to do that, but I have not found it, so if anyone knows how to do that, please tell me. I've tried using command buffers, but that really does not, well, the way I did it did not work. It was also very slow. Okay, so yeah, so the only way around that is to either move your camera, set the camera so it moves at a general pace, like that's not too bad, that's pretty reasonable. So adding a bit of smoothing to that, or reducing the sensitivity to something normal. I'm just so used to being able to go like this, so the only way, if you really need the camera to move that fast at the moment, there may be a solution eventually. I'm not sure what I can really do about that unless I figure out how to draw the procedural mesh in the actual render. So but other than that, you can just increase the field of view a bit more. Right now it's at 75 and the main camera's is 60. So what that does is just it captures from a larger perspective, so that when it's drawing the mesh larger. So if I set that to 80, yeah, you wouldn't see that at all, because it would be expanded out past those boundaries. However, going higher, you do lose a little bit of quality, because the vertex pixels are further apart because of the field of view difference. However, at 70, 75, this is about what you can expect. So it's quite nice. So that it's not really a matter of quality of the final image. It's just mainly it affects the spacing of the actual vertices that make up these screen space meshes. So